Welcome to practice exercises in AutoCAD. We are going to be exploring the editing tools Trim, Extend and Array, and they are seen as point 5 in the AutoCAD practice exercises. So you can pull up your PDF notes and follow suit. I am just going to show you in this video how to use trim, extend, and array. So let's jump into that exercise by pulling that up as a template. You need to save that template as your own by saving it into save as a drawing in your hard drive or external hard drive and name it as your own. It's good that you continuously save these exercises or do a backup, because for some unknown reason, you know, with so much going on in AutoCAD, there could be a glitch in the system, or there could be a fault or a virus, and your work is lost. And then, I really don't, um, you know, believe you if you say, oh, I had all my drawings and it's all gone. So make sure that you are warned with regards to saving your work and backing it up in at least two places at a time, either in hard drive and on your external. And every time that you you know end the exercise or end the assessment, save it as a new copy so that you can actually have a tracking of all your saved work, or either override it. It's really up to you, but that is vital to know. All right, so once you've done that and you've saved it, you should open up your model space looking like that. Now you can actually see there are many layers on here, and each one represents an exercise. So we're going to go to Layer Properties, double click on that, and a drop down menu will appear, and we are going to set or start with trim as our first exercise. So we're going to explore with trim. So click on trim, it should highlight blue. Go up here and click on this icon, which is the current layer, to set it as the current layer, the layer that we will be working in. So let's make that current. And as you can see, these all here are all on, so you can literally click on the light bulbs and you can switch them off so that they do not appear on your model space. And as you can see, you can close that now. You can see that just that layer trim is current and all the others are switched off. Okay, so with trim, the trim command is in Modify panel, and there it is with a split button here. So you can actually see we're going to look at trim first, and then later we're going to look at extend. So for now, let's click on trim. So click it. All right, you'll see that I've got a little pick box, and I have dynamic input on. So I have my little hairline prompts in gray following me around my pick point there. And before we start with showing you what the command can do, there is some terminology that I would like to just emphasize on, and that's what I'll be referring to. And it's good that you also know what the terminology is. So we are going to, with trim, trim is all about, the trim tool is used to trim or cut off an object. So an object is seen as a line, an arc, or circle which overlaps another object. Okay, so we will be working with two main terminology words, which is known as cutting edge and object to trim. So the object edge is known as the object that we are going to select. This object is overlapped and is known as the cutting edge. This is the object which determines where the other object is cut or trimmed. So for instance, I'm wanting to get rid of this line, and this line, and I want to cut it back to this line that I've highlighted. It's like almost highlighted in almost a neon white. So if I select by clicking on it, it turns blue, and I have selected that object. That object is now known as the cutting edge because I'm wanting all these objects to cut back where it overlaps. So I want it to end on that line. Okay. So these are seen as the objects to trim. These are the objects that are to be trimmed back to the cutting edge. There may be only one, all right, or there may be many. So I've got many because I've got 3. Okay. So it says there, select objects, and I have selected one to be found. So that is my cutting edge object, and I am going to press enter to finish that command. And now it says select objects to trim. So I am going to hover over these 3, and as you can see, there's a little X that appears, and that means that it is being trimmed back to the cutting edge. So I click on it, and I click again, and I click again. And now that I have done that, I am going to press enter to end this command. Enter. All right. Now it's waiting for the next command to be given. So we are going to press enter again to restart the trim function, and we're going to press enter, and trim appears because the command line remembers that as your last command that you were in, or last function. All right. So it's now asking me to select the objects. What we're going to do is that we are going to look at selecting this object and this object, and these 2 lines will be known as my cutting edge, because what I want to do is get rid of all this on the left hand side of these 2 lines that create a sharp point. For me, this almost looks like a pencil point, and that looks like a dot or a center of a dartboard. So I'm wanting to trim all these arcs and lines to this line and this line. All right. So I haven't pressed enter. I haven't done anything. I am now going to start selecting my objects because that's what the command is asking me to do. So I select the line 1 and I select another line. Okay, so what does it say down here? I have selected objects. 1 has been found, 1 up here actually, and 1 here. So there's 2 in total. And that is true because 2 lines are highlighted in neon blue. Now that I have done that, I need some help with being able to remove all these lines instead of having to click individually on each line. You can do that, it just takes quite a long time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to press enter now that I have selected my 2 objects that are cutting lines. I do not want any more cutting lines, so I'm going to finish that command by pressing enter. So enter, and it's now prompting me to say what is your option in trim that you wanting to do. Well, I want to select all these lines here, but I need a bit of help. So if you hover over here, you'll see there's fence, crossing, etc. We are going to be looking at fence. So if it highlights in a darker gray when you over it, that's great, just click on it, or you can literally click here and press F, okay, and press enter. All right. So now it says specify first fence point or pick. So we are going to create a fence line. It's almost like fencing off something. We are going to click in 3 points to create that fence, and then from that means that it's selecting all these lines that are on the left hand side of the pointy edge of the pencil. So I'm going to click up here. So click once, click somewhere in the inner circle, not in here, okay, because then that will also eliminate those arcs of the circle. I'm wanting to click on this side because I'm wanting to eliminate the arcs here. And then I am going to drag it out here. All right, so I've clicked again, and now you can see I've got a bit of a stretchy band, so I need to get out of this. And what do I do to get out of it? I press enter to finish that command. Okay, and voila, there we go. We have now got rid of all the lines that were on the left hand side of our two cutting edge objects. All right, so they're still highlighted in blue. We do not want to create a fence again. So we want to do another command of some sort, so we're going to press enter to get out of this. Okay, so press enter again. So when you know that you totally have gotten out of something, you can see that your cursor comes back. All right, your little cross. Okay. Restart the trim tool by selecting the trim icon, or pressing enter, or typing in trim, so TR. Okay. Now it says select object which we're wanting to trim. So we are wanting to trim the horizontal lines that are intersecting the columns on the shape. So what we do is we are going to select this line as our cutting line, this line, this line, and this line. Okay. In order for us to do that, we are going to use a crossing selection box. In order for us to do that, we type in C for crossing selection and press enter. So down here I'm going to just click and I am going to press C. All right, which is actually over there because I've got my dynamic input on. Enter. And what that allows me to do is that it is asking me to create that crossing selection box. So I'm going to start down here and I'm going to click once, and I'm from the left hand side I'm going to move it up to the right hand top corner and I'm going to click again. Alright, that now has highlighted my cutting edge lines so that I can literally just remove what's in between these items here. Okay, so I'm going to create a fence line here, and I'm going to create a fence line here. All right, so let's do that. All right, so in order for us to create our fence line here, we've now selected that, and we are going to actually type in capital F for fence, which is down here, which I've done, enter, and it says just specify first fence point or pick. So what we're going to do is go from here, drag it down, click and enter to finish that command. No, that wasn't supposed to happen. So let's do that again. I'm just going to repeat that whole exercise again just to make sure that we're on the same path. Trim, and we are going to create our crossing selection box by pressing C, enter, enter. Select fence, all right, and we are going to click here and here and press enter to finish that command, and then we're going to select it and press F for fence again, and we're going to click 1 and 2 and press enter, and that now disappears. All right, to finish this command you can either press escape or you can press enter again. So press enter again, your cursor comes alive again and it's waiting for the next prompt. So if you press enter again, it will restart the last command, and that was going back into trim. Okay, so you can then also look at trimming the lines in the arcs, and I'll leave that for you to carry on with. Now we're going to look at the command array, and in order for us to do that we need to switch on the correct exercise. So let's go to our manage properties drop down menu, click on that, and a drop down menu should appear, and I want you to just click where it says ornate window. Okay, now it will say turn this current layer turn the current layer off. Okay, so this is off, so we are going to just go back into that and we are going to switch it on by turn a layer on. Alright, and you'll see that the magenta layer will appear, and we are going to now switch off the trim layer. Alright, so we don't want to see that anymore, and we're just going to click somewhere else in the model space, and you'll see that there is an elevation of a house, and it is showing a chimney of a fireplace, and we would like to install a ornate window in this space over here somewhere. Alright, and the window looks something like this. Alright, so it is an ornate window, and to me it almost looks like it is a lead glass window with an outer rim and an inner rim, and then it has these spokes to it. Alright, so we are going to be looking at some tools such as polygon, offset, erase, trim, and array. Alright, so with that we are going to start with first drawing the outer rim of our window, and that rim works with the same diameter as a circle, and from that side to that side there we're looking at 900 millimeters. So we are going to go back into here. Alright, and if you want to zoom in you can do that by clicking on the magnifying glass and doing the drop down menu and go zoom all. Alright, that just brings it up closer, and we are going to start drawing our ornate window. Now look at the shape of it. It looks like it is a 8-sided polygon. So we are going to go to the split drop down menu in the draw panel, and we are going to click on polygon, and what does it ask me to do? It says there polygon, enter the number of sides. So I'm saying that my polygon has 8 sides, which is there already, so I could have just pressed enter, but for this exercise I'll just type the number 8 because yours might prompt you to say 4, I think. So enter, and then it says specify center of the polygon. Okay, now we know that it's positioned somewhere here, so we need a few shortcut functions to help us get to locate the center of this window. Now, in your documentation for this exercise, you will actually see that it gives you some measurements. I'm just going to tell you what that is, and the measurements for that is that this window needs to be positioned at 1050 in the width, and it has a height of 1650. So we're looking at the X and Y coordinate there. So you always place the first value as X. So moving in a horizontal position, so you do your width first, or your length, and then you look at going with your height. Okay, so we are working off this as our base point, so this corner or the cornerstone of the house, and we said that it's going to be placed at the center of the hexagon is going to be at 1050 there, and then up by 1650. All right, so in order for us to be able to do that, we are going to use our OSNAP drop down menu with using the shift, hold that down, and then right clicking on your mouse, and you'll see that OSNAP drop down menu will appear on your screen, and that's where we are going to be able to start our polygon. So let's do that. All right, so it says yes, specify center of polygon. So in order for us to do that, we need to be able to shift, right click, choose from. All right, now what does it say here? It says from base point. We need to choose a base point in order for us to create that center point of the hexagon. So we need to hover over here in the cornerstone, and we need to click. All right, now that we have clicked, it's asking us to offset that from that base point. So this is where you use the at sign for getting the absolute value and correct location of the center of the hexagon. So we do that by entering the coordinates in the dynamic tooltip by using at 1050 for the X value. So you then break it by typing in a comma and then typing in the Y value, which is 1650. The at symbol in front of the X distance is the force is to force this coordinate to be relative to the base point. Remember, type the X distance first, then a comma to shift to the Y entry box. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go shift to put the at sign in. So that's now got it in, and it's entered that. So there it is in gray, and the blue section is prompting us to give us our X distance, which is moving in a what can I say, the right side of the base point. So that is a positive 1050. We type in our comma, so type in your comma there, and it locks that in, and it shifts it to the Y value now, and we need to place or type in 1650, and we press enter. Okay, and because this diameter of the hexagon is on the outer side of the circle, so we are going to actually choose circumscribed about circle. It's not inside the circle, it's outside of the circle, or on the circumference of the circle. So that's what we're going to choose. We're going to choose, it defaults normally to this one. So we are actually going to go circumscribed about circle. Click on that. All right, as you can see, there we go. So I am going with, you can see it's defaulted to a radius, and that's going to the outer edge of the circle. Okay. And we are going to, we know that our hexagon is 900 diameter. Half of 900 is 450. So it defaults to radius of the circle there. So we are going to just type in 450, and we are going to use our tracking to make sure that it sits nicely and it looks parallel to the bottom line. So those two lines line up nicely, and we're going to just press enter. Okay. And there it is positioned there. Now we can zoom in. Okay, so now the center of that circle, if I just hover over and get my 2 points, if I click there, and you'll actually see that from that point, if we get a distance, it will move it 1,050 to the right and up by 1,650. Okay, so that's showing the center of my hexagon, and that was why we used the object snap drop down menu, that temporary menu that appears. It literally helps you create that point or locating that point by choosing the from and making sure that that is your base point there. Okay. So now that we have the outer rim or the outer frame of our ornate window, we can start offsetting it so that it looks like this. Okay, so from here to here, there is a distance that we need to offset by 240. And we've been told that from here to the inner part of the outer rim, it's 40 mils or millimeters. And again, 40 from here to the inner part of the inner rim. Okay, so those are all mentioned in your notes. And to complete this exercise, the spokes of this window, okay, they are seen as a 30 millimeter thick spoke, and in order for us to do that, we know that we can create a line from there to there, and then we'll offset that 15 mils on either side. So I'll just show you that. Okay, let's start. So in order for us to create a another object of the same object, but on the inside of that line we choose offset. Okay, so it's literally making a carbon copy of that object. So that's my object that I'm wanting to create the inner rim of that window. So we choose offset. Okay, what does it say as? Specify offset distance or through erase layer. We are in the same layer. We're not having to change this layer and make it something else. It's all part of the same layer, so it's the same thickness, etc. So don't change anything. We are just going to specify the first distance, which is 240, and we are going to press enter, and we select the object that we're offsetting, and we can either pull it outwards. See, immediately it wanted to go outside, but we're wanting it to be inside. All right, so you click inside of the outer rim, and that distance from there to there now is offset at 240. Excellent. So let's start that command again, because what we're now wanting to do is offset the outer rim to create the inner part of the outer rim, and the inner rim to create the inner part of that rim. Okay, so we know that's both 40. So we enter again to start that command, enter, and it's asking me specify offset distance. And it's immediately remembered the last value I put in, which is 240, and we don't want that anymore. We want it to be 40. So we're going to just type in, because that's what it's highlighting in blue. That's always going to be active where your whatever's blue in your prompt line. Okay, so we type 40, 40, enter. Now I've got my pick points, and literally I just hover over that, click it, pull it inside, click again, click it on the inner rim, and we click on the inside. Okay, we don't want to go outside because then our measurement's going to be incorrect. We need to pull it inside. So we're always going to copy that line inside of the object we have copied. Okay, or offset, just to make things simple. Press enter. We're now going to create the window spokes that are going to be centered around this center point of your polygon. Now remember, you could draw each individual spoke, but you know, it just takes quite a lot of time, and AutoCAD is all about trying to do things quicker and faster. So we have a tool for that, and that tool is called Array, and we'll be looking at that now. But we need to create the first item to array around a center point, and that item we will start drawing now. So let's select line as our drawing command, and in order for us to be able to create our first or start our first window spoke, we need a bit of help again, and we are going to use the mid between 2 points, which is located in your drop down menu or your OSNAP drop down menu, which temporarily appears on your screen when you hold down shift and right click, and then you release it, and you then click on mid between 2 points, and that will help you to locate the center of the hexagon. The reason why I'm not picking up the center of this hexagon, even though it looks like it's in a circular format, center OSNAP down here only works with circles, and this is a hexagon. So we are going to hover over that midpoint and click it, and we're going to click the second point here, and we now have our midpoint or mid between 2 points, which we've just clicked on in the temporary drop down OSNAP menu. So we pull our elastic band line and we connect it to zoom in by scrolling forward with your mouse, and there is our start of our window spoke. All right, we know that each spoke is 30 mils thick, so we are going to offset that 15 on either side. So offset, it's asking for a distance, we're going to say 15, enter, snap top, snap bottom by clicking and clicking, and you will see now 3 lines. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use our trim command. Press trim. We're going to select our 2 objects which will be seen as our cutting edge. So that's object 1 and object 2, because what we want to do is we want to trim all those lines there and on this side here, and just leave this part because our window spokes are only in this part here. So we are going to we have selected 2 objects. It says there that there's 2 in total. Now we're going to press enter, and we are going to select the objects that we do not want. Okay, zoom in, and there and there. It's always best to do the object that you are arraying around either a point or if it's in a rectangular shape, because it just prevents less editing for later on. So get the object complete and then array it. So now we can just, I see that that did not trim, so I'm just going to do that command again. So press trim, press our object that is we're cutting back to, which is our cutting edge line, press enter, and we are going to just select that line there. Okay, escape. Now we are going to erase this middle line. Now with AutoCAD it is funny, you can either select first the tool and then the object, or you can select the object and then the tool and it will do the same thing. So all this time I've been selecting my tool and applying it to the object in model space. This time, just to show you that it can work in reverse, I can actually select the object I'm wanting to erase. The grips appear and it's highlighted in blue, and then I can actually just choose what I'm wanting to do with that object by pressing a tool, and I'm pressing erase, and that item has disappeared. Alright, so we have our first spoke of our window, and from this drawing here you can see that there's 8 positioned around the window, and each are going to the corner. So we need to do 8. So we'll go back to our exercise, and this is where the tool array comes as being quite handy. We are going to create a selection box by literally just pulling down and selecting it, and then selecting our correct polar array because it's around a central point. So there's 2 ways. We can either select it and then create our select the objects we're wanting to array. It says array path select objects. We're going to go enter, and we are going to want to do it around a central point. So I wasn't thinking there, so I'm just going to do that again if that's okay. So we are going to select, we're going to select polar, and we're going to select there, and we're going to go enter to finish that command. And it's asking us now that we've selected the object, where or what is it going to go around of? It doesn't know. Okay, so we've got to tell it what to do. So we need to select a base point or an axis of the rotation. So to do that, we need to get the central point again. All right, and we need to make sure that it is definitely on that 0, midpoint 0 or midpoint 270, and we're going to click, and the minute we click it prompts it to align that object around that point. And as you can see, there's 6 spokes, but we actually need 8. So what we do is you can either select it down here. I think it's down here. Nope, it's up here. You'll see that there's this ribbon that appears for array, and we go up here to items. You see items, highlight the 6 and delete it and type 8. Now that I've typed in 8, I press enter to finish that command, and voila, you have now your window with 8 window spokes. So we can also say fill angle, all right, or you can even go here. Currently 360 means around 360 degrees around that central point, which is to be polar, which is the center of the object that it's going around. We can also make it that it only arrays in a certain part of the circle with giving it a angle. So if I type in here, instead of 360, I type in here, just say 180, and I press enter, you'll see that half of the circle, or half, sorry, I shouldn't say circle, half of the shape gets these spokes. The reason being is that around the center point here that I used as my base point, where I'm hovering my cursor, that means that it is treating that object to array at 360 degrees. I've typed in 180, so now it's only arrayed that object with the number 8 in that part. So if I chose 4, there we've got 4 now, all right? But of course, that and that is not really lining up with that and that because it's missing all these here, but it's due to my angle that I've put in. But that just gives you an idea there that you can play around with fill, either going around a central point of an object, or you can type in type in items. You could also type in the between the two items. You can specify the angle between the items, etc. So it can become quite a useful tool instead of having to draw each or copy each individual item at a time. So that is to do with array. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that so that we can, it's just undone everything. So yeah, just be careful of that undo button. If you haven't pressed enter and out of that command, it will take you to the beginning of where you started that command of array. Okay, so that's with array, and we will now move on to extend. We're now going to practice with looking at the editing tool, extend. So turn in your manage properties drop down menu, highlight or turn that layer on, make that a current layer, switch all the other layers off. Okay, and this will appear probably where your drawing is quite it's zoomed in quite a lot, and so you can either do two things. You can either scroll backwards and that will zoom it out, or you can type in zoom, enter, and plus all. Okay, oh, spelled zoom wrong there, sorry about that. Let's just do that again. Zoom, enter, and press all. There we go. And that will zoom your drawing out so that you can see everything in your model space on your screen. Alright, so extend actually works the opposite to what we were doing to trim. So it extends the lines to a cutting line, alright, or other words known as the boundary edge. So we will choose extend, so it's the split drop down button in the modify panel, so extend, and we first select the object that we want certain lines to extend to. So we select this object, for instance, and we can select, say, that object. So you can see that they're highlighted in blue. Now that we have clicked on both of those objects, we press enter, and it is now asking us to, what do you want to do? Do you know, what is the next thing to do? So basically we just click over here on this side of the line, and we click on that side of the line, and you can see it automatically connects to those lines. All right, escape or enter. If we're wanting this line right over here to extend all the way to that line, we can do that by selecting this as our selected object that we want to extend it to. So you always start with that command first. So select the tool by extend, select the object that we want to extend to, and we then press enter and then we extend to, and there we have it. So it actually bypasses all these other lines, or as you say, intersects through them and stops at the line that we selected as our first object or our cutting edge line. Okay. Same with that. If I'm still in that command, I can just connect that one to there. All right. So I'm just going to select it again, and I'm wanting to extend these lines to meet with that top line there, but I'm going to use a cross section box. So I'm going to press enter, and I didn't actually select my, so I'm just going to undo that. I didn't select my boundary line or my cutting edge line, so we're just going to press select select the extended line. Okay, clearly something's not going wrong, right? Select it, so it needs to turn blue. That's when you know that you've actually selected. Okay, press enter, and then we can do a crossing selection box here. So press crossing or C, and we're going to start by creating that box, and as I'm creating that, it will, those lines in that part there will extend to that. And similarly, if I had to do the same with this one, and I'd do the selection box, start the selection box, it will do it. So you can either select it down here or just start clicking top right with bottom left, and it will do the same. Okay, so that is just quickly a bit about extend, and these would be quite useful when you are doing your plans. So there is an exercise with that, and of a office plan with a desk, and it'll be good to practice these by completing that little exercise at the end. There's also a self-test exercise where you need to complete the trim extend array assessment self-test exercise. It gives you all the information there to be able to complete it. To me, it looks like a Allo wheel trim, a very fancy one on with a with spokes, etc. So there's an outer rim and an inner rim, similar to the ornate window that we drew. So have a look at that at the end of the document for trim, extend, and array. All right. We're now going to move into looking at mirror, and we'll just open that exercise and